how did it all start? It started from the Ogiso dynasty, from Migodo to Owodo, the last of the Ogisos in the dynasty. Now, what happened? Why did the Ogiso dynasty end? Owodo was the Ogiso, and he had a wife and a son called Ekaladerhan. Ekaladerhan was the only son and the heir to the throne of Owodo. Now, Owodo's elder brother was, prior to his own reign, the Ogiso, but he died. Now, before he died, Owodo already had a son called Ekaladerhan and a wife. But you know what? He inherited his brother's wives. All his wives, and because they were older than his own wife became the youngest. And there was only one child. Immediately after that incident, Owodo couldn't have any male child. And the eldest one became Esago.
His eldest wife became what?
Esago, that's her name. The senior brother's wife became the eldest. And his own wife, who he married, became the youngest and segregated to the kitchen.
Wow.
Woman didn't mind. But with so much intrigue, the woman, the now first wife, what's her name now? Esago. Esago, with her palace intrigues, now met the Oba one day, knowing fully well that she was the problem in the palace. She went to tell the Oba, why don't you go and find out why you can't have a male child? After I've been married to you for so many years, there are no male children.
Which one? This was the eldest brother's wife that he inherited?
Yes,
was this the oldest one?
Yes, the oldest one.
Okay.
And the king said, okay, why not? Let's go and find out. The Ogiso and handed Osago said she will lead the team. So okay, you lead the team with 3 guards, palace guards. And they went. According to the history, said that as they were approaching the doorsteps of the diviner, the diviner started shouting, Esago, Esago, you are the cause of the problem in the palace. Esago, Esago, you are the cause of the problem in the palace. I mean, there was nothing else to say. So they entered the diviners.
So she basically exposed herself by telling him to go and find out that she's the problem. Sorry, but anyway, continue.
But the king wasn't there.
Oh, okay, he wasn't there.
She only went there with 3 palace guards.
Oh, okay.
Now went in, and they said, of course, the man said, tell Esago that she's the cause of the problem. And, divine what he wanted. This is what the king will do, this is what the king will do, this is what the king will do, this is what the king will do. So there was no denying the fact.
Yeah.
But, of course, as they approached the empire, the queen of, then there were footpaths, forest paths and all that.
Yes.
The queen stopped the 3 guards and told them, before they could enter the corridors of the Benin Empire, she removed her clothes, her wrapper. And of course, the 3 guards went down on their knees. And she told them that if you dare to expose me, I will tell the king that you're trying to rape me.
Oh, wow.
That you had, forcefully seen my nakedness. He said, but if you don't, I will treat you well, I will feed you well in palace. He told the king that Ekaladerhan, his only heir, was the problem, and that the diviner has said they should kill Ekaladerhan. He should be killed as sacrifice for the land of Benin. So the king was broken down in tears. He had no choice. Asked another set of 3 palace guards to go and carry Ekaladerhan on the 3rd day to go and give him as a sacrifice to the Benin Empire so that he could have other children.
Wow.
Of course. The 3 palace guards then, they won't be able to stay in the palace anymore.
Yeah.
They left out of great betrayal. There was nothing they could do. They dare not speak against Esau. So these three guards, a young boy, he was a young boy then, Ekaladerhan entered the forest, and he was to be killed. When they got to a place in the forest, they told themselves, this small boy, how can we kill this child? What on earth did this child do? It's not. I mean, I don't feel right about this.
Yeah.
They didn't feel right about it. So they said they know what to do. So right there in the thick forest, they carried the chicken, slaughtered the chicken, use their cutlasses to brandish, to rub off the blood of the chicken, bury the chicken, and planted an ihimi tree. And one of the guys decided to stay there and live there. The other two now went home. And then, not just going home, they called the Ekaladerhan and warned him, you know your father, don't betray us. We have allowed you to. Don't come back to the beginning of my life. Because if you come back, you will die, and you will die. So stay away. And of course, the boy is so grateful for his life, went off. He just entered the bush and started moving westward. And just kept going. Living in trees, hunting for animals, just eating fruits inside. And fear now didn't allow him to ever. He never looked back. So of course the troubles continued. So they called another Araku person, and that Araku person said they now needed to carry a pregnant woman and bury her full alive. The Ogiso didn't know what to do. He said, well, if I can sacrifice my only child, why can't I sacrifice any other? Is it not for the good of the Benin? It's for the good of the Benin. So he ordered his guards. Everything became exposed. The king was eventually sent on exile. But he, because he had committed a crime against humanity, which was, according to Benin, Agbeken Bozi. Agbozi Beken. That means that a crab that has eggs, you don't kill a crab with eggs in the stomach.
Burying the pregnant woman alive.
Yes.
Wow.
Now when that happened, remember that Ekaladerhan wasn't dead. So Ekaladerhan continued to go. He just moved into the forest and was moving westward. And where is westward from Benin point of view?
Yoruba land.
Good. Then we are going there again. Meanwhile, according to history, Ife, then, Ife is big now, that community, that axis, there was also already some had not premonition, that's not what you call it, they have prophecy that somebody was coming to assist them, in times of trouble. But they didn't know who. But this guy just continued, and as he was going, he was interacting with people, but he wasn't really living with people until he got to this community. So eventually when he got to that particular west location, I don't want to, I want you to decipher this yourself.
I can't decipher it, I wasn't there. I can't decipher what I don't know.
According to what our history says, by the time he got to Ife, and these people, there were people were now saying, something like this had been said, something like this, and at that point there was trouble, and he helped them to solve that problem. And of course they didn't let him go. By now, by the time they asked him, what is your name? He changed his name from Ekaladerhan as he left Benin, because that name was never to be heard again. If you look down from that time at 1140 thereabout up till now, you will never hear the name Ekaladerhan. Have you ever heard that name?
No.
And Ekaladerhan is a forbidden, it's like a dreaded name. I cannot return back to Benin, Ekaladerhan. So Ekaladerhan now changed his name to Oduduwa. I have chosen the path of wealth. So and he moved on with that. So when they were asking, what is your name? It's Oduduwa. What is your name? It's Oduduwa. So when he got to Ife, they asked him, what is your name? He said, it's Oduduwa. And these people did not understand Benin language. They corrupted the name to Oduduwa.
Okay.
Yeah. So he continued and lived and helped them out with their challenges. And they said he can't leave. But unknown to the people of Ife, that he was a born king. Right?
Yeah.
Unknown to the people of Ife, that he was a born king. Because they didn't know him as Ekaladerhan. They didn't know he was coming from Benin. He didn't tell them that he was freed from death. He just did what he wanted. And they said, no, you are going nowhere. You will become our leader.
Okay. It's interesting, but that you have this perspective. But in Yoruba history,
Yeah.
Oduduwa is supposed to be the first man.
I will
So,
give you,
in your sense
Yeah.
of him meeting people there,
Yes.
why would the Yorubas now tell a history of somebody who came somewhere that there were no people? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It will now be a history of, oh, this person came here and ruled, which is different, which is the same as in Hausa culture, for example, with Baba Gida. I believe that's how to pronounce it, or with Prince Ginwa in Shekiri, who left Benin as well.
Yes.
Because it's interesting, because those histories are preserved. So I'm just wondering why it's now, because it would make sense if Yoruba people now said, oh, this person came here to rule us. Whether they now debated whether he was Benin or he wasn't Benin. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But why will he now be presented as somebody who didn't meet people there at all?
Who
Do
didn't
you
meet-
understand? Because
Okay,
Oduduwa in Yoruba history
can I tell
is
you
not somebody that just came. He's
Yes.
supposed to
Can
have
I-
come
yes.
from heaven as the first man.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
You know what oral tradition is? It's a tradition, history documented through stories. Stories, I tell you,
Yeah.
I corrupt. You tell your children, you tell, and as you tell, you corrupt. You
Chinese
understand?
whispers. You're saying?
So after that period, that ended. That was the last of the Ogisos, and that ended the
So
dynasty.
what time was that?
That was around between 11. Let me just say about 1130 AD to the end of that century. So for 70 years, there was no rulership in the empire. 70, about 70.
So you had to crown somebody completely
There was no
new.
crown. There was no crowning. I think Chief Olia and some other chiefs stood their grounds. That no other, apart from the family of the Oba, should be enthroned. And at a point, the Oba wasn't dead. He was only asked to go on exile. So that period, he wasn't dead. No, there was no coronating another person. But you know, when something like this happens, there's always the backstories. Did you hear? Did you hear? Did you hear? You know what we call
Yeah.
yeah. And eventually, it filtered into the chief's ears that somewhere that boy wasn't killed.
Oh wow.
I said, he wasn't killed. Then where is he? Let's look for him. The king had a son, and the son wasn't killed. So let's look for him. And some chiefs said, no, he's gone. He would have died. The animals would have eaten. Olia and some other chiefs now insisted that they must look for Owodo's son. Since they hear that he wasn't killed, in order to confirm, they went to look for those people who had actually taken him into the forest to confirm. They said, these were the people. Oh yeah, go and find out if it is true. Of course, one of them had gone blind. One of them committed suicide out of
Guilt.
guilt.
Wow.
And then the other one was still alive. So the one, I think it was even the blind one also. I'm not too sure of that now. That they now saw and say, yes, it's true. We didn't. So it's true, we didn't kill the child. This is where we ended his mission, the mission. The Eruohoho, you know, I mentioned it. We slaughtered the chicken and this is what we did. I said, are you sure? I said, yes. So they went into the forest. Oliha, with his routine of attendants and the other chiefs that supported him, went. Period. Oliha and his other chiefs, with the routine of people, had gone searching for Ekaladerhan, whom they were never going to see. And they were telling them, Ekaladerhan, they saw him here, they saw him here. So you can imagine, for 70 years, all these troubles.
Wow. So they searched for him for 70 years?
No.
Or more than?
I wouldn't say it could.
Well, it
maybe
couldn't have
not
been 70
up to,
years.
because
It
the
could
whole
have,
thing
'cause you'd have
happened
died.
within. Yes, the whole thing happened within a period from the time of Owodo till the end of that century, from 1130 till 1170 and 1200. Yes, and so while this was happening in the empire, those that were looking for the kings, the Ogiso's son, were out there. They were moving now towards the west, as it is, to where people say, we saw him here, we saw him there, we saw him there. And eventually they met him where he had become king. I told them, I can't come home. I can't come home. It's okay, you can't come home. What do we now do? If you can't come, give us somebody, because you are a king's son. And kingship is only through family lineage. As at then, it wasn't even father to son at that time. It was family lineage. So you give us somebody. He called his son, one of his sons. I said, never. Everybody is going nowhere. Go to Benin. I remember at this time, they had enculturized. Ekaladerhan was no longer speaking Benin, but he could hear, according to what they said.
Yes.
He was now Yoruba, speaking Yoruba. Remember, he had also changed his name, so you dare not address him as Ekaladerhan, because that name, as far as he was concerned, was a cursed name.
He had died that day.
He had died, exactly. I like that.
He died that day.
You see?
Yes.
Right? So he said he wasn't. Moreover, he said, I'm old now. So what am I coming to do then? And I promised those people that I'll never step my feet in the land of Benin. So there's no, it's okay. He called the grandson and said, you go with them. Not even his direct son. None of the direct children agreed to come home to Benin. He said, okay, you go with them. He called his grandchild and he said, go with them. And that one came. And you know, the journey then was not one day. So they were happy.
This has been very interesting.
I'm just telling you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. This
You're
has been so
welcome.
enlightening. Learned so much today. Bye, guys.